Welcome home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. We are Baltimore positive and positively celebrating another Preakness week here in the books. We're going to get the Maryland Crab Cake Tour back out on the road on the 28th. We're going to be down at Fadley's at Lexington Market. I will have the Maryland Lottery scratch-offs, the Back to the Futures to give away, as well as on June 7 when we return to Carroll County. We'll be at Greenmount Station up in Hampstead having that delicious crab cake. And no doubt talking horse racing there is attached to an OTB. My man David Richardson will be around. Maybe we'll grab Allen and some others once the race is over, because the racetrack is going to be over as we know it. Randy Moss, the man, the myth, the legend, not the wide receiver, the Hall of Famer, my Hall of Famer, horse racing Hall of Famer, is in town on all behalf of all things NBC. They're going to be providing coverage, and Randy and I know each other a little bit in the real world. And before we even got this thing going, I don't green room around here, Randy, but you started to get me a little teared up about this. Took a grand tour of the grand old lady one last time. Am I missing out? Should I go out there one more time this week?
Well, my first Preakness, Nestor, was 1981. My first Derby was 1980. But I came to the Preakness in 1981. Pleasant Colony beat Bold Ego that year in the Preakness. And I've been a denizen of the Pimlico press box ever since then. I mean, back in the old days with Dale Austin and Andy Byer and Clem Florio and guys
Oh,
like that,
you just
right?
said Clem. Hold on. Oh,
Uh,
you baby doll. Oh, he looks beautiful, Randy. He's going to run today, Randy.
uh,
And Vinnie Perrone and Charlie
Roan.
Ekman
Oh
and
yeah.
Chris
Jack Mann.
Thomas.
Jack
Oh, the
Mann.
great Jack Mann, turf
Yeah.
legend Jack Mann, Sports
All those
Illustrated.
guys. All those guys. I always look forward to seeing when I came to Baltimore. And so yesterday I had to make one final trip up to the Pimlico press box. I actually took video on my iPhone for posterity. The elevator, of course, is broken, no surprise. So I had to climb about, what, 1,000 steps to get up to the press box, but it was worth it.
Well, this is a year I can be really flippant and say that thing should have been condemned.
Oh yeah.
The fact that it ever carted Howard Cosell in 1980s, like that elevator. There's so many parts of the track that here from the time that the parimutuel wagering broke and all the electricity went out 25 years ago, and
Oh
punching the
yeah.
horse and the running the urinals and things that I may or may not have done in the infield that would not allow me to be elected. Maybe it could get elected these days. I don't know. But the event itself and what it was in 1981, scaffolding, all of that in the infield to where it's going to go. That's the part for me where I'm trying to see the success into the future here for it, because we don't have the Kentucky Derby winner. That's problematic. Behind all of this, it's sort of like saying goodbye to the track and all of this. I'm trying to sort out like how we make this great again, because you and I think it's so great.
Well, I mean, to make it great again is really pretty simple, Nestor. It all has to do with the calendar. And I know you and I have talked about this a lot. And it's, again, front and center for this year's Preakness, just because sovereignty is not here. And that's something that's going to be um, increasingly prevalent, increasingly more likely that the Kentucky Derby winners will wind up skipping the Preakness, maybe even more often than not, just because of the 2 week gap, which is now a complete anachronism in thoroughbred racing. So if you want to really bring the Preakness and the entire Triple Crown back to where it used to be in the heyday, in the good old days, then you've got to get modern with the way horses are trained nowadays, with the way horses are physically nowadays. And let's say Derby first Saturday in May, Preakness Memorial Day weekend, or even a week later than that, and the Belmont around the 4th of July. They would do it.
Well, I mean, for the track this time and for where racing is in the state, and I've been through all of its slots. I've been at this forever. What do you expect to find when you come back for the Preakness at Pimlico in that space in your mind to know it's not going to look anything like the way it looks now? It's not going to look like Churchill. It's not going to look like Del Mar Keeneland. In my mind, I don't even know what they're trying to construct here for a modern racetrack in an urban environment, primarily to host the Preakness, right? Like not to really be more of a racetrack. I don't understand it. I've had it explained to me five different ways. I can't imagine for people in the industry because this race is really important. It's important to you. It's important to the track. It's important to the state. It's important to NBC. And I don't have a clear picture. I don't sit down with anyone that gives me any clarity on this. And I'm wondering if you're around it a little bit more that this is the last time and you're emotional about it. I'm emotional about it, but I don't know what they're trying to do as I look at Camden Yards behind me and think of 33rd Street.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's inject some realism here, okay? It has to be better than it is now. Yeah, as much as I love coming here for the Preakness and have been coming here now for what is it, 44 years. The fact of the matter is, and I'm sorry if Maryland people really don't like to hear this, but the Pimlico facility is the worst venue for a major sporting event in all of American sports. It's worse than the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum, for crying out loud. And I came across, Nestor, a Daily Racing Form column that said that Pimlico was beyond repair and that the Preakness needed to be moved to Laurel. It was 1948 was the article. So, Pimlico, it has been as a facility on life support for a long time. So whatever they build here in place of Pimlico it's not going to have the same history, obviously, that Old Hilltop has right now, but as a facility, it will be infinitely better than what the fans experience now when they come to the Preakness. So I think that's a positive. Churchill Downs has been remodeled. Belmont Park is being remodeled right now as we speak, and the Preakness is next. I'm looking forward to it.
Randy Moss is our guest. We always love having Randy on, talking racing here. We like it a lot more when the Derby winner's here. For the neophytes, for folks who only dive into this once a year, and I asked Donna to do the same thing, Dick Girardi, all of my horse racing, all my mafia, who talk about this and know it so well. The notion that this race will be moved affects Belmont, affects Fox Television, NBC, the industry gods, all of that. And there is no commissioner in all of this to
Right.
decree, like Rob Manfred putting Pete Rose into the hall. I don't know what that was all about, but there's no voice for horse racing other than people like you and Tarico on TV this weekend and people that speak up and out and the horsemen themselves. And because the horses don't talk, right? What's going to be perfect? What's going to be palatable for the people in New York and Belmont? What's ideal for the industry and what's palatable for the people that are the stakeholders? That's never seemed to align. And I talked to Dick Girardi, and you're an old schooler. Spend a buck. 1985 was the beginning of all this. 40 years later, it was $1 million back then, and a purse and a prize or whatever. And all these years later, we can't even get the Triple Crown right as an industry around horse racing.
Yeah, well, the fact that there's no commissioner in thoroughbred racing is the major problem right now. If the sport had a Roger Goodell or a Silver or a Rob Manfred or anything similar to what the NFL and the NBA and Major League Baseball have, this problem of the spacing of the races would have been fixed 20 years ago. It's been about 20 years when you first started seeing also rans in the Kentucky Derby, some of the best 3-year-olds in the country, skip the Preakness and be withheld for the Belmont Stakes. That was an indication right there that there was trouble down the road, and it's gotten worse and worse and worse. The problem right now, because there's no commissioner and because every state, every track looks after its own selfish self-interests, is that New York right now is the beneficiary of the current spacing. The Belmont Stakes has actually been strengthened because, at the expense of the Preakness, quite frankly. That's not good for the sport. It's not good for the Triple Crown, which is the number one thing that horse racing has going for it right now, right? And New York has been steadfastly refusing to go along with changing the spacing of the Triple Crown so far. Now, we may be getting to the point now, as you see this year, where more often than not, when the Derby winner skips the Preakness, that then robs the Belmont Stakes of a chance to have a horse going for the Triple Crown, which creates 90,000 or 100,000 fans and is a huge moneymaker for New York. That might finally, Nestor, be the impetus for New York to come to the table and agree to move the Belmont Stakes and change their whole stake schedule and everything else that would go along with that. It desperately needs to be done.
I guess for this race and for having, and by the way, I know you'll be happy to hear journalism's alive. We get to say that this week. Journalism's a contender, as Clem Florio would say. I don't, the short fields, when that became the problem, and then the fact that the purses in the state were a mess. The slots thing never happened in the aughts. The Stronachs took it over. They were more interested in turning it into some sort of Miami fashion show or whatever. Like just from a local's perspective here of what it was, and the school buses bringing the college kids in, and me being a part of that 30 years ago, to what they're trying to make the Preakness, what Maryland racing needs to be, what Laurel. I mean, you mentioned the things about Pimlico. Laurel's, you know, a step ahead. Maybe it's up to Tropicana Field or something like that. We could throw that in, but with the roof, of course. But for me, with what's happened here with the Preakness and the industry itself and everything that's going on around it, I just don't understand how there hasn't been more influence in some way to make this happen, because all of these signs of problems here, and especially for the state when it affects the purses and the whole weekend, and none of the horses want to come. It's affected the black guy. It's just affected everything, not to mention bad leadership here on Baltimore Positive. We can talk about mayors and governors and the state of gambling in our state that I talk about so much. There's been a lot of things here to steal the Preakness away, to move it to Florida, all of the rumors that I've had to deal with for 20 years. It does feel safe in here, and there's a plan, and they're going to do something. There's money allocated, but the sport has to kind of come and rescue itself as well, so that it can benefit Baltimore and Maryland racing and all of that, because the timing of all of this is designed to kind of screw us. And the evidence in that is witnessed here when it's a racing week and not enough people are as excited about it as they ought to be.
Yeah, I mean, right, the Kentucky Derby is the Kentucky Derby, and it always will be. It's arguably the greatest horse race in the world. So the Kentucky Derby is fine. I think 21 million people tuned in to watch the Kentucky Derby segment of the NBC telecast 2 weeks ago, right? The Belmont Stakes right now, Naira is going to have a brand new Belmont Park when they get it fixed, and they move the Belmont from Saratoga back to Belmont Park. Theoretically, the Belmont's going to be, always in good shape. It's a classic. Right now, the Preakness is in the middle and is in a compromised position, as you pointed out, not just for the Preakness Stakes itself, but for the undercard races. Churchill Downs gets a load of the best horses in the world, dirt horses in the world, and grass horses to run on Derby weekend. They don't want to come back in 2 weeks to run in the Preakness. So once you get all that fixed, and I do think, I am optimistic that it will get fixed, then I think you're going to see, Nestor, a pretty immediate renaissance in not just the Preakness Stakes itself, and get it back to where it used to be, where all the best horses in the Derby come back and run in the Preakness. That's what the Triple Crown is supposed to be. It's the oldest tradition in the book as far as the Triple Crown is concerned. But the undercard races as well are going to really benefit from that extra time. And you might even have a situation where you'll not only have the Triple Crown for 3-year-olds on the line, you might see a Triple Crown for 3-year-old fillies that actually means something. Kentucky Oaks, the Black-Eyed Susan, and let's say the Acorn is the final leg of the Triple Crown. Triple Crown for turf males, Triple Crown for turf sprinters, for dirts, you name it. It really could benefit Maryland racing in a lot of different ways than just helping the Preakness Stakes, and I think it will be done. It may be a little blood on the floor, but I think it'll happen.
Well, hang on here. You three times now I wrote down optimistic. I think it will happen.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten a lot of that recent. Where's the movement in all of this? And I guess, I smell money as much as anybody in saying there's no question this is depressed everything about the Preakness, and there's no question if there's no Triple Crown that can't really help the Belmont. Now, Belmont's smelling nice because Saratoga is beautiful and people want to go there and run, and the jockey. No one wants to come here because of the deterioration of the track, because of the deterioration of the purses, because there's nowhere to put their horses when they bring them in here for a grand event that the Preakness used to be. But if we can build that back, where is the optimism? Where are the leaderships who are these humans that are going to decide what the horses are going to do, and certainly where the money's going to flow in the industry?
Unfortunately, right now, well, the industry as a whole is not in fantastic shape. I mean, with the exception of a few pockets around the country, major races like the Kentucky Derby, the Breeders' Cup is doing well. But as a whole, the thoroughbred racing industry is not nearly as strong as it used to be, and Maryland is unfortunately suffering from that as well. The optimism that I have for the Triple Crown and for Maryland racing in general comes from what the proposals are to revitalize Pimlico, which was desperately in need of that, and what I believe is going to be the New York Racing Association, which holds all the cards in the Triple Crown spacing. The Kentucky Derby is like, it's not we don't have a dog in this hunt. They really do, but they act like they don't. It's going to be all up to Maryland and New York to come together and to make this happen. And I've been told, Nestor, that New York has told the Maryland racing authorities, now it's going to be the state of Maryland and not the Stronach Group, that they will consider, which they've never said before, that they will consider moving the Belmont Stakes once they get past the Belmont at Saratoga phase that they're in right now.
When
And
does that end, by the way? Because I'm a little unclear. Is that 2 years, three? How many more are we going to run at Saratoga?
that is a little fuzzy. I think the plans are to run this year at Saratoga, and then next year, even if the Belmont Grandstand is not completely finished, to run the Belmont Stakes at Belmont Park with tents and things like that. Now, whether that will actually come to fruition, I don't know.
But we might have one more, but not two more.
It's possible that they'll have
Okay.
two. That's what I've been told
No,
by some.
two more, but not after
Right,
this year. I'm talking about.
right,
Okay,
right, correct.
and then Laurel will be where the Preakness is next year, correct?
Laurel will be where the Preakness is next year, and there's supposedly a commitment as well in Maryland, a strong desire to run the Preakness Stakes at Pimlico in 2027, again, just like New York, even if the facility is not 100% complete. So things are moving in the right direction, and I do believe that you're going to see the New York Racing Association agree to move the Belmont Stakes, which will help revitalize the Preakness, and the new facility, I think, will help revitalize Maryland racing in general. Maybe I'm being naive. Maybe I'm being a little Pollyannish and overly optimistic, but that's what I am expecting to happen.
Randy, I will shed my last tear on Pimlico on you on this and say that, I remember the first time I saw a thoroughbred horse was Ferdinand, this beautiful chestnut. With Gary Whittingham out there, was about 85 years old at the time, and I saw Howard Cosell walk through he's just a huge man in the gold Wide World of Sports jacket, walking through on a Preakness back in the mid 80s. And think at the end of this that I'm the old newspaper guy, so I'm thinking of the Sunday headline, and I want to see journalism prevails,
There you
journalism
go.
wins. I don't know. Give me
I
a
got a
little
great, I
race.
got a great Howard Cosell story for you, by the
Oh,
way.
please do.
You hear
Please
a
do.
Howard Cosell story? All right, I'm at
Sure.
Churchill Downs. This is when ABC was doing the Kentucky Derby, and this is probably, I want to guess, late 1980s or so. And there is a gaggle, a circle of people crowded around a particular barn. And it's because Howard Cosell was doing an interview with the trainer, and everybody wanted to watch Howard Cosell, right? There's this young guy standing next to me. I had no idea who he was. To this day, I don't know his name. And we're both watching the interview. So the interview's completed. And Cosell looks over toward me and sees the young guy next to me and says, young man, young man. I need a word with you. And I thought, whoa. Okay, so I got out. He was talking to the guy next to me. So a little bit later, hour or so later, I run into this guy, the young guy who was standing next to me. And I said, out of curiosity, what the hell was Howard Cosell so upset with you about and wanting to talk to you? And he said, you won't believe it. He said, 2 years ago, I was at Churchill Downs, the same exact scenario. I'm watching Howard Cosell do an interview. It's a cold morning. Howard Cosell takes off his beautiful ABC windbreaker and hands it to me. And he said, I'm holding Howard Cosell's ABC jacket. I'm never going to have this opportunity again. And he said, I took off with it. He remembered my face 2 years later and got in my face about stealing his ABC jacket. I said, can you believe that?
Well, he stole Howard's jacket. I mean, come on. I mean, that's not right. Yeah, it's like something out of one of those commercials where they steal the stuff in the locker room. Randy Moss is here. He's been in locker rooms in the NFL. I'm not going to bother him about Justin Tucker or Lamar Jackson or any of that because he's here for the race. Will anyone beat journalism, or can journalism be beat? I hope journalism's unbeaten and unchallenged.
I think the only thing that can beat him, Nestor, is the 2 week turnaround. The last four winners of the Preakness Stakes did not run in the Kentucky Derby and had more than that 2 week turnaround. So they were fresher coming into the Preakness. That's increasingly becoming an issue. The spacing again, we're talking about but he is clearly the best horse in the race. And I actually like a journalism clever again exacta. Clever again does have more time than 2 weeks, so he'll probably set the pace, not much speed in the race. Those are the two I like.
Well, one thing about this race this week, all aside for the last time at the track and the other storylines, if you're a bleeding heart like I am, who's still upset that they've pulled the charts down in the press box that you have to walk 6 floors up to get to, where it would be 148 degrees if it were, 80 outside. Just the fact that D. Wayne Lucas is here, Bob Baffert is here, right? Fletcher. I mean, the stars of the sport, jockeys, horses, but trainers and having sort of legendary trainers here, that adds more cachet to the race for me, even more so than social influencers I've never heard of who apparently affected the odds a couple of weeks ago.
Oh yeah, Griffin Johnson, the influencer, had a huge impact on the betting on Sandman in the Kentucky Derby, and he'll be back. I haven't seen him yet, but he's in town since Sandman is running in this race. But you're right about
Bring Metallica in, the horse will be even money.
Oh, they've already posted a video, Metallica, in support of Sandman. Oh yeah. But yeah, you're right about the big names. And with anytime you get Bob Baffert and Wayne Lucas, Steve Asmussen, who's won more races than any trainer in history. When you get guys like Todd Pletcher, who's never won the Preakness, but he's going to give it a shot this year with River Thames. Anytime you get a big four like that, it helps a lot.
Well, I appreciate you all the years of horse racing. I hope we're here to tell the tale in a new place. I'll dress up, look real nice, put my ascot on if they're and get my ass in gear. If they bring a new track here, I've lived long enough. I want to see it. I'm here. I've watched us lose our football team and get a football team back. I've watched us build a new
Oh, wow.
stadium that's still one of the really cool places to watch a baseball game. I want to see what horse racing can be and how it can have new life injected in our city and for the community, and something that's just a beautiful historical part of it's our Super Bowl, Randy. You know that.
There you go. And by the way, I'm a native of Arkansas. My all-time favorite
Brooks.
professional athlete, Brooks Robinson.
How could it be anybody
Absolutely.
else? Is there a number two in Arkansas, or am I missing something? Who's number two?
Number two, all time. God, I don't know.
Who would be? Yeah, I mean,
There's been a lot, as with any state, there's been a lot of old time famous athletes that have come. Dizzy Dean. You can go way back to guys like that, that have been
so
famous in
you're from
sport.
a whole
How
state,
about
and
John Daly?
there you go. It depends. Yeah, you go. It depends on your sport, but you're from like a whole state and you claim Brooks. Our city claims Brooks, right?
Oh
Like it's
yeah,
sort of
I
like
know.
you can't have him. He's ours.
I
We have
agree.
two
I agree.
statues for Brooks within a block of each other. Randy Moss at NBC, and I said this to Donna. Your coverage is always just
Thank
so spot on. I know you're broadcasting from a trailer in the rain, out of the rain, all that stuff. I saw what happened down in Churchill 2 weeks ago, But just it's I'll be watching, everyone watches, and you guys just set the race up so beautifully to make it about more than, a minute and 45 seconds of a race. And I appreciate it every year. I'm always educated by watching you guys, and it helps me interview you every year. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Nestor. It's always good to catch up with you. Hope you're well.
It's always football season. And Randy Moss is here. He is from NBC. Watch the races this weekend. I'll be watching the races. We'll be broadcasting from the Maryland Party at Steve Wynn's Little Palace out at the Encore Pool this weekend. It's a huge networking event for Maryland executives, politicians, community leaders. You'll be hearing it all next week as we get up on Memorial Day. Luke's at the ballpark all week. I don't know if the Orioles are going to work. Maybe if we can find some pitching, we'll be better off. I am Nestor. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore positive. Happy Preakness.